Today, I'm going to talk about some basic principles at the intersection of karma, astrology, and Kriya Yoga. And these may seem very basic to you because we talk about them all the time. But I want to talk about them as a whole system. The first principle, the most primary principle, is Aham Brahmasmi, meaning I, or you, and all of us peoples embody the creativity of the divine. So in my opinion, in my humble opinion, as we say, the eternal truth of Kriya Yoga is Aham Brahmasmi, and everything else is like a sub-principle. So the principle is we've created the life that we're living now, whether you like that or not, and especially important, from this very moment, we're creating our future. It's whatever you think or intend or speak or the actions that you take. Basically, where you put your life energy, your life is creative. Therefore, karma is the momentum of what you've created. The more time or intensity you put into something, mentally, verbally, or physically, the more momentum it has, which is to say, the greater chance it has of influencing you now or in the future, right? And we're taught in Kriya Yoga that the seeds of our karma are located in our chakras along the cerebral spinal axis. So we're taught in Kriya Yoga that our seeds are located, the seeds of our karma are located in our chakras, and that's along the cerebral spinal axis. But you can find out a lot more about karma in Kriyananda's book, The Laws of Karma. That will expand that whole sentence that I just said. But my feeling is that the chakras are a type of Rosetta Stone. They're a translation device because it translates, because of how humans look at chakras and observe the chakras, we translate from many different types of metaphysical systems or spiritual systems to another, so that a chakra does have a seed syllable. A chakra has a mantra in Sanskrit. A chakra has a geometric design. A chakra has a numerical correspondence. A chakra can have a color, a fragrance, a zodiacal sign, which is what I'm talking about today, and or it can have a relationship to a hatha yoga asana, like Kriyananda writes about in Spiritual Science of Kriya Yoga. So there's hundreds actually of correspondences, and these correspondences are used to soften our karma. This is another fundamental principle of this connection between karma and Kriya Yoga and even astrology, which is, this is important. Your karma can be softened. You have heard this before, but this is so important. It goes along with that you have creative powers of the divine, and therefore you can soften your karma. I've met a lot of people who, once they learn astrology or they learn about karma, they go like, well, that's my karma. Guess I got to live with it. But in Kriya Yoga, one of the things that we learn is we can soften our karma, and that there's so many different ways to do it. But astrology becomes one of the languages that we can speak to talk about our karma. You can use it to define ways of different techniques that you can use to do that. Not just in your meditative life, because we know that in meditation, there are a lot of techniques to balance the karmic energies, to soften our karma, even to neutralize our karma, which is super important. But the next principle is your everyday life is your spiritual life, that your everyday life and your spiritual life are one and the same. And therefore, your natal chart is your karmic chart. So how do we use astrology? So you can see that there's correspondences in to both planets and then the signs that are ruled by those planets. So that the Ajna chakra is related to the sun, and we call it the sun in Kriya Yoga, and it's also the sign Leo. The moon is related to the sign Cancer, and that's the medulla oblongata at the base of the skull. Mercury is Gemini in Virgo. The Venus, the Anahatra, the heart chakra. So Mercury's the throat chakra. The heart chakra is Venus, Taurus, and Libra. Mars chakra, the Manipura chakra, is Aries and Scorpio. Jupiter chakra is the sacral chakra, which is Sagittarius and Pisces. And the Muladhara chakra is Saturn and related to the signs Capricorn and Aquarius. So I wanted you to have a handle on that, because you don't have to do a lot of complicated astrology. You can use very basic astrology to get a lot of good information for softening your karma. It's really super important to know basic astrology, which is why when any class we went to with Kriyananda, he'd say, oh, did you bring your chart with you? Can you pull out your chart? Can you look at your chart and see this or that? So there's a lot of different things that you can look at. And I'll point out one thing, which is not necessarily the most important thing, but can be a very helpful thing for looking at your natal horoscope. The first thing that I look at mostly in people's horoscopes is called in astrology the dynamic focus. And the dynamic focus is usually defined as the closest approaching square, but you can really just use your closest square or your closest opposition. It doesn't have to be, maybe somebody doesn't have a closest approaching square or they can't find it. That aspect will tell you your most important life lesson. It's probably something, as you look at it and study it and say, oh, I have this aspect, I have that aspect. I wonder how that's impacted my life. And as you study it, you'll be able to see if this is something you're still working on, which is super likely for most of us, or if it's gotten better as you've matured, or it will give you clues about what to do and what you're supposed to be working on. So astrology is a system that'll say to your face, it'll say it to your face, this is your problem. This is what you're supposed to be working on. This is what you need to learn about to soften your karma. We can do all kinds of things because of the correspondence of the planets, to the chakras, to astrology, to the astrological information. And we can begin to balance through what's sometimes called remediation, symbolic correspondence, things like, example, I guess would be, if you have too much Saturn in your chart, watch a movie that makes you laugh. If you have too much Mars, eating foods that are soothing. If you have too much Neptune, do a spiritual practice that intensifies your aura. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you're taking a deep breath, you pull the beautiful light aura around you, you push it out with your exhalation, you expand your aura so you're not so sensitive, things like that. You relate it to all kinds of, we have a huge toolbox that we're given by Kriyananda and also by all the other teachers, saints and sages of all times and places, as we say. There is a lot. And once you know the one that you're supposed to be doing and working on, you can make that correspondence. If you see in your chart that your Mars has a difficult aspect, natally, progressed, by transit, you can take some quiet time, focus at your Mars center, and chant Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Or if you observe that in your everyday life that a situation is making you angry, then you go to your Mars center and you go Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Whatever the symbol is, go to that chakra and just you're affirming and you're creating the intention that you want balance and peace at that chakra. And so in conclusion, I just want to sum up that these are the important points. Aham Brahmasmi, we're the creative principle. We create karma, which is a momentum moving us into the future, and that our chakras contain the seeds of our karma. Chakras have planetary correspondences. Your natal chart is your karmic chart. And you can soften your karma with awareness, meditation, wise action, and skillful means. And it's because you are creative. You embody the creative principle. You can soften your karma as we practice the principles of Kriya Yoga, the yoga of wise action. Om Tat Sat Om.